Why dating and economics are so correlated. Today we discuss.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
Today we are going to discuss why dating and economics are so correlated. And if you think that I do these videos about dating and so on, it's because, first, I'm not a dating coach. I'm a consultant. I'm an analyst. I'm in finance, economics, real estate, and related affairs. Now, what I like to do my consulting, and I include economics, and I do, of course, a lot of economic analysis and macro and finance and tourism and demographics and do all this math. It doesn't matter if I don't include dating. And here's why. Because at the end, like I said many times, and I'm going to keep repeating, is demographics are destiny. In order to have good demographics, you need good dating. In order to have good dating, you need good society, and you need a good understanding of economics and finance. You see economies, for instance, like Japan, and on the near future, South Korea. Japan and South Korea, these nations have terrible dating markets, and you can see it easily on the fertility rate. You need a fertility rate of over 2.1 births per woman in order to have sustained demographic population. And you need a beautiful demographic pyramid that looks like this. And when you have an horrendous demographic pyramid like this, that's a recipe for disaster on the future. I use Japan as an example because you already have the results and are terrible. Japan on the 80s was poised to overtake the United States as the largest economy worldwide and was very close. What happened is, a bunch of terrible economic decisions, the Bank of Japan, quantitative easing, the Nikkei index collapse, and so on. And you have basically three lost decades regarding Japanese economics. Despite the fact that Japan actually has a very good business culture and also has a very favorable climate for doing business, there's a lot of trust and less bureaucracy and a lot of technology and innovation and so on. So very good for the Japanese, but it doesn't matter if you don't have the right people. And we can see the similar trend on, for instance, South Korea that has even worse fertility rate. So people in South Korea are not having children, and the government are trying to do everything that they can in order to incentivize the reproduction and the dating and so on. So the government of South Korea is doing the dating for their citizens, basically. Now, having said that, that's why you need, of course, a good dating market. Also, I'm going to explain the factors that drive the dating market and what makes a good dating market and a bad dating market. So I'm going to start with biology. You have, of course, the males and the females. And yes, I'm not going to give you the parental speech that you gave to your 10-year-old or 11-year-old for sex education and stuff. I'm not going to do that. However, what you have is males that are the demand for dating. And females, they have the supply. And the supply is driven, and the demand, of course, is driven by biology. Is by a hormone, a substance that every human being has that is called testosterone. So I'm getting very didactical. I don't even if that's a word, but please bear with me. So the testosterone is the substance that creates the biological demand for dating. Let's call it dating because let's keep it YouTube friendly. And the average male has 20 times more testosterone than females. By the other hand, you have the females that they don't have, of course, way less than the man, but it's even worse than 20 times less. The thing about females, they only have two ways to take decisions. One is obeying their natural hypergamy. Hypergamy is the psychological trait, evolutionary psychological trait, that makes women only want to mingle and mate with men with higher socioeconomic status. But it's not just about money. It's about physical attributes. It's about good traits that makes a man successful, or most likely to be successful. Their ambition, their way they speak, and how they behave, how good are their social circle, and so on and so on and so on. So that women are evaluators of the future talent of males. However, the second mechanism is their social milieu. What happens is when either want to date, like, of course, the men with higher socioeconomic status, could be anything. I mean, it doesn't have to be just money. It could be just, let's say, a particular female likes a musician, and a local musician that is not rich or famous or anything, but is a good musician, and she dates the musician. The same thing with sports or law or stuff like that. Okay, you get the idea. Now, the second issue is their social milieu. What happens is women are very pressured in order to make decisions compared to the rest of the society is doing. Unlike men, females have less individual critical thinking. Most men don't have it, but it's barely, none of the women have it. It's like 20% of males have capacity for critical thinking, and like 1% of females. So let's keep it, just on those standards. So what happens is, if you have a good society, women are pressured to make good decisions, to choose a good man that has a good future, maybe not a good present, a good future, and take a chance with them. If you have a bad society, a society that is not pressured in order to mingle with good men, they mingle with men because here's the other thing. This is according to Dr. David Boss, which is the superstar of evolutionary biology. He has published many best-selling books regarding this issue, males and females. And he has a book called Evolution of Desire, and also has Why Women Have, sex. And what happens is there is 237 reasons for women in order to have sex. Most of them are because the man is rich, or the man is tall and handsome, or the man that has some psychological trait that makes him leader, and so on. And you can put up the outliers, like he's a good musician, or he's a good playing volleyball, stuff like that. But anyway, so when you have a good society, pressures women to have long-term, take a good man and have a good relationship with a good man. When you have a bad society, you have women that are promiscuous. And when you have promiscuous women, according to evolutionary psychology, please don't beat me for this, women that are promiscuous and have a high count of sentimental partners are less desirable to have long-term relationships, because she's more prone to be promiscuous and have a child with another man, and also she's more likely to cause a divorce and so on, and have a bad relationship. This is just psychology. Please don't shoot the messenger. Okay. So, on good societies with good demographics, the societies push females to take good men for long-term relationships. On bad societies, you have women are on their own. They don't grow on a good family environment and social environment, and they became more promiscuous. And what ends up happening is that you have a terrible demographic pyramid, because women, when they are more promiscuous, they make the decision in order to, instead of having a good lasting relationship, they have several terrible relationships with just a handful of men, the men who are rich, and so on and so on. So that basically what happens in many countries all over the world, especially where the laws are more feministic. And what happened is that you have terrible demographics over there, you have less culture, less values, and everyone's on their own, and that destroys the society within itself. Now, remember the demand on, 20 to 1, that actually is like 100 to 1, 200 to 1, because remember, the average female, according to some stories, they don't want the average man. Women only have a vision, their perception of reality is only for the top 5, 10% of men, of course, regarding the criteria of most women, but with most women is either the most rich men or the most famous men, let's say hip hop singer, stuff like that, or an athlete. And what happens is, of course, you have a bunch of men, the bottom 90% of men, that on good societies, they have options with the, let's say, average female and the average man, and the below average man with the below average female. What happens in bad societies is that just most females only want a handful of men, the top 1, 2%, stuff like that. So, and that's statistically impossible to service those needs. So you have men that, of course, they want to access, remember 20-to-1 ratio, they want to access, of course, to the dating market, and they use secondary channels, and those secondary channels are, of course, the oldest profession. Please read between the lines. And the oldest, since the demand for the oldest profession increases, on the supply side, of course, increases the supply for workers of the oldest profession at any forums, escorts, OnlyFans models, traditional models that are not models at all, if you catch my drift, content creators, webcam girls, yacht girls, and so on and so on, and basically every girl that you see on Dubai on the past 5 years or something like that. Well, what happens is that, of course, when you increase that supply and you increase that demand, you are creating a worse and worse and worse society. And that comes at the result that you're going to have worse and worse and worse demographics. Going back to Japan is going on. I saw a statistic, I don't remember the number right now, that you have hundreds of thousands of Japanese young girls that are incurring on the oldest profession at any shape or form. And something about Japan, they have very creative ways of, oldest profession services. And it's funny, no? And what happened is, of course, less opportunity, and also less opportunities for the younger people, because you have a terrible society, terrible economics, terrible demographics, and this is a vicious cycle. Now, how you can fix that? Well, like Jordan Peterson says, well, this is kind of a psychological video. Jordan Peterson says, clean your room. So start by your room, start by creating a better culture for yourself and the people surrounding you. Start to mingle with people with good values. And I don't want to get Tradcon and Christian and anything like that, but it is what it is. So if you want a better society, you have to mingle with people that are better than the average. I'm talking regarding values and so on, and try not to create, of course, the incentives for having bad people, because this is the worst thing. And actually, yet again, I'm going to use Jordan Peterson, getting very psychological with this video, is that societies are defective societies, and societies with a lot of issues and a lot of conflict are the ones, neither the ones that are rich or poor, are the ones that they value and they reciprocate positively bad decisions and bad actions. For instance, people who are on drug dealing, or women that are on the oldest profession, or people who are corrupt politicians, people who do bad things in order to scale on the socio-economic status pyramid, ladder, as you want to call it. So you can fix it. But of course, legislation, this feminist legislation that doesn't correlate with the true human nature, is terrible to create good societies. That's why you see on places that are very feminist. So that's why you have terrible demographics and terrible economics on places that on the long run establish feminist policies. Actually, on a lesser degree, that's what's happening right now on South Korea. They have terrible feminist decisions, not as feminist in other countries, but that's why you have terrible demographics over there. Also in Spain, that is one of the most feminist countries, the most woke countries. Spain is basically a third world economy within the European Union. And what will end up happening is you have terrible fertility rate over there, a terrible dating market, and undesirable options regarding good eligible bachelorettes, and It's gonna destroy the dating market. It's gonna destroy the demographics, and it's gonna destroy the economy. The economy itself is gonna be destroyed right now. They have a terrible GDP debt to GDP ratio, one of the worst in the world. It's one of the poorest economies on the European Union. Also, a lot of unemployment, and so on and so on. And so, all of these terrible economic policies and demographic policies are going to destroy the country by itself. That's why I'm not bullish on most of the European Union nations. I'll put the Poland and the Baltic nations as outliers, and in Hungary, I like Hungary as well. But most of the nations, I'm not bullish on the near future. That's what you see. Countries like, for instance, Italy, France, and Spain itself, that the small towns and the villages, they are basically giving away their properties, their real estate properties, because nobody wants to live there, because you have few people, just elderly people, or even no people, whole cities, whole towns that have been completely wiped out. Not for a bomb, not for a war, anything like that. Just people live. So you have ghost towns. And bad demographics create those bad incentives. Now, to close the video, it has a cost. I mean, if you're a man, you're on the demand side. If you're a girl, you're on the supply side, but you have to make good decisions. If you don't have the good orientation, the good guidance, you're going to make bad decisions. And you're going to have, when you have bad decisions, you have bad outcomes. It is what it is. So, if you're a male, you have to increase your value. That's it. There's no way around it. But at the same time, you have to put on the best position possible. Geo arbitrage will be the best. Of course, improve your social circle. And if your country has a terrible demographics and terrible dating market, it's because they have terrible demographics and terrible culture. Just move from that place if you're able to do so. Females, make good decisions. And that's it. And remember, access to the dating market, there is a term that we use on marketing and sales, that is the client acquisition cost. Well, the same thing. You have to increase your value and reduce your client acquisition cost. In this case, you know what I'm saying. And if you're a female, yet again, good decisions, low turnover of clients, please, and don't enter on the oldest profession. And that will be all. This is just, I know it's a very different video from my typical dating, economics, geopolitics, and so on. Hope you enjoy it, and cannot wait to read your comments below.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.